right, welcome you guys. So this is day one of our Create a Continent project. If you were not here in class on Wednesday or Thursday of this week, then you have not seen this Create a Continent piece. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you were here Wednesday or Thursday, then you need to skip to the next video. I'm going to be doing a video for each day's lesson, so you can kind of just do the ones for days that you aren't here at home, and otherwise do the ones that you are here for, just in class with us. So just do the ones that you miss. If you know you're going to be here for the next class, or you think you're going to be here, then just plan on doing it in school that day, and then if you are out that day, you can do that one at home that day. But try not to skip ahead on them, because then you're going to be ahead of us, and that's not going to help anybody. So let's go ahead and work on creating a continent. So today we're working on creating a map for your continent, and today really we're focusing on just that draft, just that first little piece of it, so that we can then work with it from there to add landforms and countries and all those things. So we'll talk about that as we get into it. How I want you to warm up is just kind of think of things you like. This is a nice chance to be creative and show me and show yourself and just have fun with some different things that you like while you're making your continent. So think of your favorite foods, hobbies, sports, maybe animals, even numbers you could do. Other things that you like or things you like to do. All those things would be great. Okay, so pause the video and take some time to just kind of, you don't even have to write this down, but you could just mentally fill in the blanks for these questions here. So I'm going to stop talking, pause the video for a little bit, and try to get some good answers. Alright, hopefully you paused the video and you were able to come up with some things. For me, I might do things like favorite foods. I might do things like pizza, or, I don't know, I like soup, I like salads. Those kinds of things would all be things that fall into my favorite foods. Or cookies, definitely cookies. That would actually be my number one. I don't know why I didn't say that. Hobbies, some things I like doing. I like woodworking, I like teaching. Things like that, snowboarding, skiing, those are always fun. Sports, I like playing hockey, I really like watching hockey, I like watching football too. Things that I like, some animals maybe. I really like moose and polar bears. Those are some of my favorite animals. Things that I like to do, I kind of already went over those. Those kind of fell into my sports and hobbies, but I don't know, just playing video games, that would be something I could put on here too. So any of those things, think of a topic that works for you. And here's some other people's from the past. So somebody really liked Michael Jordan, and they really based this whole thing off of sports. So then when they went to name things, they named things with sports names. This person wanted to do something about whales, so they used all their names to be about different whales, or types of whales, or things whales have, even just like a tail or a blowhole or whatever, right? But they also worked in their landforms to the shape, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. Okay, so let me focus first on just picking a shape for now. So, here's some other shapes that people pick. These are pretty detailed as well as being pretty straight lines. They look less like a continent and more like a picture, okay? So when you're doing something, you really want to, yes, first think of something that you like, but then also, how do you make that into a continent? So I don't want it to just look like a picture. For instance, this person really liked bikes. So they took a bike and they made a simple outline of a bike. They didn't trace anything, probably didn't even look at a picture. Just kind of drew, okay, I know where the front tire is, I know it has a back tire, or I guess the back tire, and it has a front tire, I know it has some handlebars and a seat, okay? But then they added in landforms. So take a second and see if you notice any landforms here. I think I can find about 5. So the 5 that I found is right here. This is a fjord, a deep, like a cut into the continent. It looks like a canyon between the ocean. Ocean water goes in and out. It's not a river just going one way. Ocean water will go in and out of this. So this is a fjord. Here, I would say we have a peninsula. Peninsula has water on 1, 2, 3 or more sides. This is a peninsula. This, to me, looks like a gulf. It has land on 1, 2, 3 or more sides. This is a gulf. This looks like it would be a bay, just kind of gently going into the land and coming back out. And I also see a strait over here, that skinny water that connects big water and big water. You might say this is an isthmus, skinny land that connects big land and big land. That could be an isthmus, especially if they made it a little thinner, it would be more of an isthmus. The one I don't see here that they could have included would be an archipelago. If they had taken like this bike seat and made it into like a few islands, then they could have had an archipelago. But overall, this design is pretty simple and still includes 6 landforms in the outline, and we'll talk about the number of landforms you want. But we go back into some of these, and they included some landforms, right? Like they have a gulf here. Maybe you could call the end of this a fjord. Okay, they have a strait going all the way through here. This looks like an isthmus to me. Okay, so they incorporated a few things, but not a lot of them. Okay, same thing over here. I see like a gulf and maybe a peninsula, but I really only see those 2. I don't see many other. I don't see a fjord or an archipelago, a strait or an isthmus. Those kinds of things aren't there. And when we look here, we see a few. I can find on Michael Jordan they have a gulf, they have a bay. Okay, this is probably an isthmus, a peninsula. So I think they got 4. They probably could have made a fjord somewhere. It looks like maybe this is an archipelago, would be a 5th. Okay, and on this whale we see a strait, we see a bay or a gulf, a fjord, an archipelago, an isthmus. So they got 4 or 5 as well. And that's kind of your goal, is to get about 5 landforms today. Okay, and there's some different ways you can do that. For instance, this dog still looks like pretty simple, but they actually have a lot of landforms here. Okay, this is a peninsula surrounded by water on 3 sides or more. We have a fjord they put in. They turned this paw into an archipelago, the group of islands. We have a strait right here, that's skinny water. Okay. Let's see, peninsula we already did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the bay. 6 would be the gulf. Okay, so they have a lot of these here, and same thing over here with this violin that was here. But you want to really think about how can you incorporate these landforms. These are the ones that you really have to either include today or not include. Okay, so we're really going to focus on bay, gulf, strait, isthmus, archipelago, peninsula, and fjord. And that's what I'm going to focus on today as well. So I'm going to real quick show you this camera here. And I have 3 pieces of paper. I think I'd prefer, and it's going to be easiest to work with blank paper like this. If you only have lined paper at home in a notebook or something, that's fine, that'll do. But I think it's going to look best and work best to be on some blank paper like this. Okay, we're going to use one for a draft, and then we're going to use one as like a political map and one for a physical map. So that's what the 3 are going to be. Today, and in this lesson, we're really only focusing on the draft to begin with. Okay, so we're only going to use the first piece of paper today. Okay, now I want to show you some examples from other years and other students who have done these same things as well. So here is a taco somebody made, kind of the shape of a taco. They put in a fjord, a gulf. They have an archipelago and another archipelago. Okay, so they have some of those landforms there. This is an example I did. I did a donut land. Okay, and you can see a bunch of my different landforms there. I also did a Pac-Man, kind of looks similar to the donut, kind of a similar idea, but definitely different, and I involved like the ghost and some islands here. That was a fun one to make. So those are just some examples that we've done in the past, and I'm going to show you another example today, just one that I'll just kind of make up as we go. So one of the things that I like is Thor, so I'll just do one based on Thor, or really Thor's hammer I'll focus on. Okay, so that's what I'm going to look at. You can kind of follow along with yours and do yours at the same time, or you can just watch mine and just go from there. So let me start with, on my paper, I'm going to write down all those different landforms that are important for today. Okay, and you want to try to get, like I said, you want to try to get probably 4 or 5 of these today. And I'll go over why it's important to have so many of them. There are 7 right here, but I'm going to go over your grade and how that's going to be affected by the number of landforms you can show. Okay, so let me just finish writing these down. And there we go. You don't need to worry about writing those down because you'll be able to look at my list as you go kind of thing. But I'm just going to write them down there so I can show you and check them off as I go. Okay? So this is just my draft. let's see, Thor's hammer. So my first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make something that really looks like Thor's hammer. It doesn't need to look perfect. Thor kind of has, he calls it a hammer, but it's really more of a mallet. Just kind of a big top and then the skinny handle, okay? So there's that. Now, I want to incorporate all these landforms. You do not need to do all of them. You should focus on getting 5 or 6 of them probably. 4 to 6. Let's say 4 to 6. Okay? That's going to make your life easier later when you go to add, or when you go to get your grade and all those kinds of things, because you're going to add a few more landforms with color, and we'll talk about that later. But these ones, if you don't add them today, you can't go back and add them, because they're part of the shape of your continent. Okay? So let's look at how I might add some of these. I'm going to start with a bay. So how could I add a bay in here? Well, I kind of already have a bay. This area goes in gently and comes out, but I really want to make it a little more defined. So what I'm going to do with this is make this part kind of come in a little bit, and then kind of turn and come back out. And that really looks more like a bay to me. I'm going to label it, again, this is just a draft. I wouldn't just label things crazy like on my actual one. But for my draft, I'm going to label things, just so that I know where I'm including these, and I don't forget any. So, I got a bay. Oh, I kind of actually created an isthmus here when I did that. There's this skinny land, big land, big land. I want to make this a little more isthmus-like, a little skinnier. So I'm just going to come in and just kind of have it be pretty skinny, and it'll come back out. Now, I'm starting to look a little less like my hammer, but that's okay. I'm not stressed about that because I really want to focus on these landforms and getting them in. And if my picture is a little not like that, not like Thor's hammer, that's okay. But I already have 2 landforms. Okay, I'm going to again label this just for me and my idea, and so I know what I'm doing. All right. Archipelago, let's look at. So, oh, I know that in one of the movies, Thor Ragnarok, his hammer broke into 1,000,000 pieces. So maybe I can kind of play on that. I'm going to take a section off of this hammer over here. And I'll have this line kind of come up here. And then in this area, I'm going to have it kind of broken up into a bunch of different pieces. And that kind of shows that it broke. So that's kind of cool. And it gives me an area to put in. I just added 2 landforms. Look at that. So I have the islands, which are an archipelago. I'm just going to write arc for now, because again, this is just a draft. And I also have through here this skinny water connecting big water and big water. That is a strait. Okay, so I just got a strait in there as well. All right, looking up here, I need a gulf, a peninsula, a fjord. And if you got 4 in here, then you could call it good. You could say I'm good. I'll add the rest with color later, and that's fine. But I'm just going to show you how I would add these things. So a gulf, I'm going to add a gulf up here on this end. Again, his hammer broke, and so having some chunks out of it I don't think is a problem for me. Really shows kind of that piece of his story, so that really adds to what I'm talking about. Gulf. Alright, peninsula, fjord. Oh, I have a peninsula right there. So this is skinny land. It doesn't have to be that skinny, but it has water on 1, 2, 3 sides of it at least. So almost surrounded by water. So I already have a peninsula. Now all I need is a fjord. Let's put my fjord down in the handle here. There's not much going on down here. It seems like where a fjord might be able to form. And I know that a fjord kind of usually has more than one of these at a time. Sometimes 2 or 3. Sometimes has pieces coming off of each other. Okay, but it often will, just how it forms, you just usually will see more than one. And then they kind of die out usually, so. Okay, so now I have a fjord. So that's just an easy way that you could do any of those landforms or all of those landforms into yours. And again, it doesn't look perfectly like a hammer anymore, and that's okay. I also could have put my gulf down here and my fjord up here. That might have made this part still look a little more like a hammer and still look like that cracking piece, which kind of adds to my story a little bit. But it doesn't matter, okay? I have my 7 landforms, and I'm going to get a good grade because of that. Now take a look at this real quick. I'm going to draw this. You do not need to draw this by any means. This is just a little bit so that you can see what your grade's going to look like. Okay, so if you want a 5.6, or if you want a 7.8, okay, then these are how many landforms you need. So to get a 5.6,